Welcome into the halfway house, everybody.
What's
Steve,
up?
that's a stylish hat you got on there.
It is, it's that golfish brand. I'm thinking about not knowing if I want to go golfing or fishing tomorrow.
Hey, I mean, we talked to them at the PGA show, and
Yep.
they are probably some of the nicest people that we met at the PGA show, and some of the
Yes.
most fun, casual people you're ever going to meet. Their brand fits their personalities of everyone that works for them. So, I mean, if you haven't, check out Golfish and their products at golfish.com. So, with that being said, we're here to talk about madness, March
Madness.
Madness in the halfway house tonight. And it's not our typical topic in other sports, but we like to do that here in the halfway house. But we're also not going to be typical, and we're not going to break down the bracket and who you should pick to win the whole thing.
Duke.
What we're going to talk about is, I think, Duke or Florida or Auburn, I think are your top ones.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the selection committee and who was snubbed. Why is this fair? Why are people chosen over other people? And this happens every year.
And it doesn't. Here's the problem that I have. It doesn't just happen in basketball.
It happens in life. Are you going to make the life analogy here?
No, I'm not making one. I mean, the NCAA finds a way for their playoff system to be screwed up in every sport. Like, they have figured out how to just aggravate people.
Well, before you say that, the football decision is not the NCAA, if you're talking about that.
Well,
that is
let's
not
say
the
that.
NCAA.
The football decision, and at this point, when you look at what happened this year after the expanded playoffs, I feel like they got it right.
The expanded playoffs were phenomenal this year. And I'm saying that where my team didn't win the whole thing.
But I feel like they got the playoff seeding right. There were a couple of tweaks that need to be made, and then they've made those tweaks. And I will give them that. But giving conference champs a pass
needs to be
certain conference champs shouldn't get a pass, and they should seed them how they should be seeded. And they're adjusting that, and I will give them that.
And that's more how they seed in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, where just because you win a conference championship, it guarantees you in. It doesn't mean you're the number one seed.
Correct. So the talk this week over all of the conversation that has taken place since Selection Sunday is about one school.
And it matches the color on your hat.
Does match the color on my hat right there in that blue. It's that Carolina blue. Should they or shouldn't they be in? And again, in that group one, they have one win in that group one. They didn't really beat anybody. Now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They made it to the semis of the ACC tournament, which traditionally, if you make it to the semis of the ACC tournament, you're one of the top four teams in the ACC. You're doing something right at the right time and playing at the right time. You are winning when you should be winning.
Yeah.
I think the problem that everyone is having is they don't have a great record. They really didn't beat anybody that they shouldn't have beaten this year. They didn't have any upset wins. And then you parlay that, and I'm using the word parlay because it's relevant, with the fact that the athletic director from the University of North Carolina was the chair of the committee for the selection committee for the NCAA tournament. To quote our guest from a week back on the tavern, there's some sandbagging rats here.
Oh, Yip, we love you. And maybe we need Yip to be here with us and help find these sandbagging rats. But you look at this from just a standpoint of a record. And Wake Forest was 13-7 in conference in the ACC. Yep. They were 21-11, whereas out of conference, whereas North Carolina was 22-13 out of conference. Wake Forest didn't win. They were 0-6 against AP and USA top 25 polls, whereas in North Carolina was 1-8 and 1-8 against top 5 competition.
I don't want to know about Wake Forest. Let's just go to the school in the state that is threatening litigation, which I feel like we need to discuss. Can we discuss West Virginia's stats against North Carolina stats?
So West Virginia's stats. So West Virginia was 10-10 in conference, and I'm going to compare something here at the end about conferences as well. So West Virginia is in the Big 12 now. West Virginia was 10-10 in the Big 12. You have one of the top 4 seeds in the Houston Cougars in this conference, whereas in ACC you have Duke. West Virginia was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th place in this conference. They were 19-13 overall, so in conference and out of conference. But their top 25 record was 4-4 and 4-3, respectively. Whereas North Carolina was 1-8 in both. So if you're looking at beating top tier teams, if that's your selection here, I could look at this and say, if you look at the ACC standings, got to pull these up side by side, and that's what I didn't do. North Carolina was, I think, 5th in the ACC, or 4th or 5th in the ACC. And like I said, West Virginia was 7th in theirs. But when I'm looking at, if we're just comparing this to top 25 based on how conferences are, in the ACC, every team except the top 3 and Georgia Tech either did not win against the top 25 team or only won. Georgia Tech won twice based on the USA poll, not the AP poll. So the ACC didn't seem as strong of a conference this year as it has been in the past, because the ACC has been the GOAT of basketball conferences. And North Carolina and Duke is one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports out there.
Yep.
But I look at this and I look at the Big 12 and I look at this conference. Every single team in the Big 12, every single team beat a top 25 team. Every single one. That includes the Colorado Buffaloes, who were 1-8 and 1-8, exactly as North Carolina against top 25 teams.
What was you're looking at the Big 12? What was UCF against the top 25?
1-6 and 1-6. And had a winning overall record at 17-16. Now, I'll use the Big Ten as another example. Is I'm going to use my alma mater as Penn State, which we do not deserve to be in the tournament by any means. We had a great season, where at the beginning of the season we fell off at the end of in the middle of the season, and kind of ended strong by beating another top 25 team in Wisconsin at the end of the season. We beat Purdue, another top 25 team, earlier in the season. But we had our ups and downs. We also ended with a 16-15, so an above 500 winning record. The only team worse than us in the Big Ten was the Washington Huskies. And we don't deserve to be in anything that's there. I don't blame our coach and players for not wanting to play in the NIT or anything else, because we didn't really earn a lot this season. They are a great team. They should have done better than what they were. But overall, in the Big Ten, if I'm looking at the same thing, the top 25, because that's really where a lot of this comes from. They say, oh, North Carolina beat top, but they didn't beat anybody, as you said, in Tier 1 or any kind of real competition. The Big Ten is better than the ACC overall in top 25 poll play. Only 2 teams the Iowa Hawkeyes, shout out to Dave and his wife, and the Washington Huskies are the only team in the Big Ten that did not beat a top 25 team.
I just here's my thing with this. Every year there's a problem with the NCAA bracket and the way it's selected. I have problems where automatic selections, and I get their strength of conferences and things like that, and I understand that at that level, but I don't think that anybody that automatically qualifies should have to play in a playing game. I think
No,
if
I agree
you
with that. I don't like
like
the play-in games.
and I don't mind the playing games, and I understand the reason for the playing games, and you're expanding to 68 and you're giving 4 more teams a spot. I just don't like the idea that if you automatically qualify, you have to play in a playing game.
No, but this scenario proves that why I don't like the play-in games, because you added the play-in games to kind of take away this type of scenario where someone would be left out. You're always going to have someone left out. So,
Correct.
like adding the play-in games, like you have a cutoff at a certain point. Like, I'll be honest, I don't like that what Major League Baseball did. I don't like what the NBA did with these kind of like the 9 and 10 positions getting a chance to fight their way in. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it makes this, but it's like it's the participation trophy of playoffs.
Correct.
Like that's
All right,
where I look
I'm
at
going to
this.
ask you this question. In for the longest time, everyone has talked about how great March Madness is,
It is.
especially when they compared it to when you looked at what the college football playoff was, and nobody understood why they couldn't make this for the college football playoff. Are there too many teams in March Madness?
Above 64, yes. I think 64 is the right number. At the 68, I'm not against it. The playoff thing is interesting. The play-in games are interesting, but you're going to have parity of who's in the play-in games and not. I don't like that from the picking a bracket standpoint that I don't know, and I want to pick a bracket in advance. What team's going to make it out of there? I think 64 was the right number. I think 68 is too many. You have to cut it off at some point. No one's ever going to be happy, and it's never going to be the right pick versus the wrong pick that's there, but you have to make a decision. I don't blame the committee for making their decisions. I blame them if they're making their decision and they're going to put someone in that doesn't deserve to be there versus someone that does deserve to be there for financial reasons. But it is a business in the long run. The college football can't do a 64 team thing
No, they
because these
can't.
games are played back to back. And I'll use the example of the COVID year here in Indianapolis, where every game was played here in Indianapolis. It was in one city for all 64 game or 68 games, or 64 teams, 68 teams.
Yeah.
It was exciting. This city was alive during COVID in a sense where we probably should have been a little more cautious on some stuff, but it was exciting. You could never do that again because of just the logistics of hotels and teams and all that kind of stuff. And it's exciting to see it spread across the country, but it was fun for that 1 year. And that's what I love about March Madness is you give these Cinderella stories, you give these mid-major teams a chance that they don't have in college football. But college basketball and college football from a level of play is so different.
Correct.
The disparity from a power conference to a lower conference in even just Division 1 football is so far apart, whereas in March Madness, any team can beat any team there in basketball because it's a different sport. It's the way it's played. It's not as physical as what football is. So you're not just overpowering people and can have more money, but you're going to have better players, but anyone can win. And that's what I like about this. That's what I like about the 64 team bracket. It's exciting. But it's not too many people.
Fair.
Does I'm going to ask you this question: does UNC did they get in just because of the Belichick? Is that why?
No, I mean, I question the idea that they have a their athletic director is the chair of the committee and they get in, and it's questionable why they get in. But I also think that based on history, based on the fact that they're North Carolina, based on there are a lot of things that I think they're going to North Carolina is a draw. Like, how many times have they taken in bowl games and college football bowl games? They've taken teams that are a draw over other teams because they sell tickets. North Carolina sells tickets. They travel well. It's not, I mean, they're one of the college basketball powerhouses.
So let me ask you this, Steve. As I'm going to compare UNC Duke to Yankees Red Sox. Okay, because it's in all purposes same conference, same division.
Yep.
Big, huge rivalry. One of the biggest rivalries in sports. So would this kind of be the equivalent of if last season the Red Sox, who were 10 games behind the Orioles, that Major League Baseball just decided that, hey, it's better for baseball if the Red Sox get in over the Orioles because they're just out, but we think we're going to select them because we feel they're better. Like, would this be doing the same thing there as what it looks like here in the NCAA? And I'm going to add, let's just say that if it was a selection committee, that the head of the selection committee is the owner of the Red Sox or the general manager. You're a Red Sox fan, so
I am a Red Sox
question.
fan. I am a Red Sox fan. I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, and I honestly think that when you look at what do you have when you get, the Red Sox have this, and Major League Baseball has played at a different level. Like, baseball is what it is. I think that you have this, because it's all done on record at the major league level.
You play the games no matter what on any level.
Right,
sports
you do.
Is sports.
But here's the problem. When you look at the selection committee, you have a selection committee versus Major League Baseball where they do it by record.
But the reason that also you can't do it by record in the NCAA is because you don't get to play everybody, where in Major League Baseball, you pretty much get to play everybody out there. So everyone has a fair shot in that sense. So that's where it's a little bit different when you get to college. So you have to go to this selection. What would make it different for UNC to make it over West Virginia? In your eyes, what makes West Virginia better than UNC? Like I said, they were further down in their own conference than UNC was. UNC made a deep run in their thing, but when you look at the overall picture for the whole year, I say West Virginia does look better on paper.
They look better on paper.
But are you making the selection on that, or are you making the selection on who's the hot team right now? Because I would say when it went to college football selection a few years ago, you left out some teams who were hot at that point, had won conference championships, and should have probably been in. How do you make the selection right?
You could take this back to golf too.
I mean, as we should.
Look at Ryder Cup picks. Look at President's Cup picks. Like, and not that it's mattered in the President's Cup. I mean, it really hasn't. Ryder Cup picks.
It's mattered in the Ryder Cup.
It's mattered in the Ryder Cup. I think does North Carolina win their first round? Do they win their second round? Do they get into the third round? If they get past the first weekend, what happens then?
Well, here's how people are going to look at it. Like if they make it out of there and there's like questionable calls or something in a game, people are going to cry Patrick Mahomes and the refs because they're thinking that they're trying to do this for UNC to get further to maybe have a
Right.
shot at facing Duke. But that's just conspiracy theory, and that's not really what's happening. But they're not even picked to make it out of the bracket. If you
Right.
actually look at most people, they think they're going to lose in the play-in game. I almost look at it like if you're going to do play-in games and you're seeding these people in there, and you brought this up earlier, I want the answer of why are the play-in games not the 16 seeds?
Oh, I feel like that's
Like
where the playing game should be.
it doesn't make sense. Why are you having who you're saying is an 11 seed have to play in, but another 11 seed doesn't have to play in?
Correct.
Like that's where it doesn't make sense to me. To be honest, we do record this podcast earlier, and San Diego State and North Carolina are currently playing while we are recording this. I'm going to call that out on here, and the current score is 6-10. So, guess who's winning?
San Diego State.
No, UNC.
Oh, well, okay, it's fine.
And it's not really a spoiler alert because this won't air till a few days later, and
Yeah.
I think it's funny to kind of call that out.
But I think that when you look at the NCAA tournament, everyone is always giving them credit for getting it right.
Yeah.
They questioned the college football playoff this year, and there were automatic qualifiers, and there were a couple, at-large teams that got into the college football playoffs. There were automatics. I mean, the group of 6 winner, the best non-Power 5 school got in.
I think they got the 12 right in the college football.
I would agree with you. I mean, based on what happened and the way it played out, I would 100% agree with you.
I think the way it played out showed that the seeding was wrong.
I also think, though, that at some point you are going to see a 12 seed win this thing.
Yeah. But you're also going to see people left out. That's the thing. There's always going to be this, like, you're never going to make it perfect in any circumstance whatsoever, unless you shorten, in football, you make the power conferences only play the power conferences and make one giant conference and just have 4 different divisions. And that's your NCAA champion, which could be interesting. That takes me to a whole conversation of relegation. I think it would be a lot of fun. But in the NCAA, I think you didn't solve anything by having these play-in games.
Is this the EPL? What is this, the EPL?
Oh, I think relegation should be in all professional sports. But because it'll show you true fandom. But I think that the play-in games kind of made this a little bit worse for the NCAA. Is you cut it off at 64. You say only 64 can get in. You have to select those 64. These play-in games, I don't think North Carolina would have been in this selection had they had to not be in a play-in game. But I don't understand why only 2 of the 16 seeds are play-in games, and then you have 2 random 11 seeds.
So
doesn't make sense.
My other problem, and Greg, you went to a large Power 5 school, right?
I did. We are.
Yep. I went to a very small. I actually went to the smallest Division I school in the country.
Isn't it the 70th anniversary of them winning something?
We got to the semifinals.
Oh, okay.
Not the 70th. We played UCLA. Artis Gilmore and the Artis Gilmore team played against UCLA and Lou Alcindor.
Yep.
In the championship game, they got beat in the championship game by that UCLA team with John Wooden. That was amazing. So
that's an exciting thing for a university like yours to make it that far.
Right. And JU is the smallest Division I school in the country, or at the point that I was there, it was. I also think that you need to give, you know what, a conference like JU that is going to get one automatic qualifier. That's it. That's all they're going to get. They're not going to get the.
You have
They're
to
not going
win
to
your,
get it.
your
You have to win your conference in order to get it. Right?
Unless you have someone that's having an amazing season that's in the top 25 and they get beat in the conference championship that gets the automatic qualifier, that's the only reason you're getting to it.
And even then, 50-50. So when I was at JU, we should have gotten into the tournament. We were that 2 seed in the tournament. We were in the Sun Belt at that point. We got beat by a buzzer beater, kept us out, and we had a team that was loaded. One of the kids on the team was a kid named Aaron Fox. His brother was Rick. Might have heard of him.
Kind of a good player.
The problem that I have is, did San Diego State win their conference, and are they playing a playing game?
Yeah.
So why are they playing tonight, not on Thursday? Like, that's where I really have a problem with these playing games. Is the playing games, to me, should be
St. Francis, who's a 16 seed, won their conference and is a playing game. Like, that's not right.
To me, there's a problem with that. Is that if you win your conference, and I get, because again, there's money involved here for these schools. So why should these schools be playing a playing game that win their conference? They should be playing on Thursday night. I'm sorry. I love a good Tuesday night because we're on Tuesday nights, and I think that there was a meme that got put out there this week that Roy would rather watch us on Tuesday nights than
YouTube golf.
But I feel like, I think that the NCAA needs to do something to figure that out. I think that's a bigger problem than should it be North Carolina or West Virginia.
Yeah, I think you need to seed better and almost say, hey, if you win, you shouldn't be a play-in game, and you should have. I'd rather, to be honest, I'd watch if North Carolina was playing another power team, not San Diego State. That might be a more exciting play-in game, and San Diego State would have a better seeding, and I think that's the way it kind of should be looked at. So, with that, tell us what you think in the comments, how you would change it, what you think. There's no right answer here. I don't think that the NCAA is trying to do anything on purpose here. I think they're trying to make it great. I just think that they haven't gotten it right, and I don't know how they would do that yet, but it does leave us with a great conversation.
Before we let you go, you have to pick. Would you rather watch UNC or West Virginia play? My take's UNC.
It really is. I mean, but I think West Virginia deserves it, but UNC is just that classic, like, it's like when the Yankees or Boston, I'm going to go back to that reference, when they're playing bad, but you still want to watch them. Like, because of the history behind that team. That's why. So, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Really fortunate, man. I mean, having an opportunity to build something
somebody was commenting about playing Whistling Straits for 700